Hello, my name is Ann Knowles, and I want to welcome you to Strictly Salina. This is a program of SMC TV, formerly known as Community Access Television, where we endeavor to help our community know about the wonderful organizations in the community, nonprofits, and some businesses, so that we as citizens know where we can go for assistance, where we can go to for fun, for education, for pastime activities for ourselves and for our families. And today, I am pleased to have Paul Fouts, who is our guest, and he is the Educator Curator. So what does the Education Curator do at the Rolling Hills Zoo?
So basically my job is being responsible for the education programs that get taught either at the zoo or off-site. And that could be for adults, that could be for children. Most of the time it's for children, but we do other things for adults too. And
give us an example of one of the things you might do for adults and one of the things you might do, one of the programs you might do for kids.
Well, today I had a program at about 1 o'clock, and we went to Heartland and did a program for their preschoolers. So
good.
We did a program about communication and African animals. So that was fun. And then for adults, we do birthday parties, and we can do birthday parties for really any age. But we get a lot of we get a lot of adults who kind of get into the educational side of it based on other things that they attend at the zoo too. So I wouldn't say that we have a lot of programs for specifically adults.
Okay.
But it's not to say that we couldn't.
Right.
We just don't get it.
So if I wanted to put one together for, let's say, a business that I have, for my employees, could I do that?
Sure.
I could call you and ask you to help develop that?
Sure. We do, right now, one of the things that we get calls on is when, let's say, a Vortex or some company comes out and they want to rent the conference center because they want a meeting or they want to have a gathering, then we have an education component in that if they want it, and we can do a program for them. So they can say, can we get 3 live animals and you guys can show us the animals and talk to us about them, or can you do a Zoo to You, which is basically a themed presentation that they could either choose, or we have a set number of things that they could choose from.
You know, when I think of the term curator, I immediately think of like big art museum curators, and it seems to me that is an oversight position. So how would you collaborate with the education coordinator?
So we're partners.
You're partners.
Yeah, we work every day. We're talking, communicating, and figuring things out about where we want the education department to go. The direction, the content, that kind of stuff. My job's really more of the content, the curriculum for all of the programs.
All right. And, so you would be developing those.
Yeah. And then she would get them scheduled. She would make sure that we have the staff to do them, the times, all that kind of stuff. And then she does sometimes help with them too. So we're really a team. It's Teresa Canifax is her name. And then we have a program lead. Her name is Jessica Ulp.
Okay.
And she's also the one that delivers those programs. So
you all would be working together. You would be developing the programs. And part of that work then begins to involve a program that you had mentioned to me before we went on the air about the teen volunteer group. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. The Zoo Teens are it's a program, and we call it a program because it's a volunteer group that has requirements that the adult volunteers don't have. So we basically have this program that allows 13 to 17-year-old teens to get experience in the animal field, career field, and it gives them a lot of other things too. It gives them experience interviewing, because we do interviews to get into the program. It gives them experience talking to public, so a lot of public speaking, working with kids, working with adults. It's really great because they get a lot of different experiences. It prepares them for jobs later on in life. So it's kind of one of those things that when you get into the program, it's real world experience. It's real world prep for anything that you might do after that, even if it's not animal related. So ideally, we want a teen that is interested in the zoo world or the animal world, conservation, that kind of thing.
Right.
And we do get a lot of those. But sometimes we get teens that just want to expand their resumes and expand their knowledge and expand their skills.
So if I'm a classroom teacher, is there a way I could work with you with my classroom?
Sure, sure. We do. I think one of the things that people don't understand is that we're very adaptable.
Right.
We can create things for a group or a teacher or a class. It's not just call the zoo and we have one program that we deliver
Right.
to everybody. It's
Right.
we're not like that at all, and we don't want to be. We don't
No.
want to pigeonhole ourselves into something like that. But we want to get into the USD 305 and work with their teachers. And when I say get into, I just mean collaborate, open up a dialogue, and ask
Absolutely.
them what they might need for us, because we are a resource. We contact the counselors. We tell them what the program is about. If they have students that they know would be interested in that kind of thing, then they inform the students. Or sometimes they just put information out.
As a curator, which is the big picture person, I believe. Am I correct
I think
in that?
that would be accurate.
How else would you promote the vision of the zoo to attract volunteers to come out?
Oh, that's a good question.
It would be through the development of your programs, I think, your curriculum, probably.
It would be through the development of the programs. It would really be through having good volunteers who are
Right.
ambassadors for the programs.
Right.
So if we have education volunteers that are able to be really good ambassadors and educate people that come into the park or go to off-site programs and educate people, then others see those people as volunteers, knowledgeable volunteers, and it gives our volunteer program respectability.
So let's say that I really want to be a volunteer with the chimpanzees. Have you developed the curriculum for the training for that position with me as a volunteer? No.
No. That's actually one of the things that we need to dispel is people think that when they, adults especially, when they volunteer, they want to volunteer because they love animals. There's no direct contact with the animals.
No, right.
Our zoo just and most zoos I don't think allow direct contact
Right.
with the animals.
But I would learn about them, would I not?
You could learn about them. So there are different areas that you could volunteer in. You could be an education volunteer and you could teach others about chimpanzees.
Okay.
Or you could be an adult volunteer in the keeper department and do something like make diets for the chimpanzees. So you can do that kind of thing in that department.
So tell us about training people to be zookeepers. I mean, just the whole zookeeping thing. You were a zookeeper. And so with some of the volunteers that you come in contact with, either kids or adults, what kind of experience would that volunteer have?
If they wanted to go onto that path. Well, if you're talking about kids, then we have a couple things that we could do. You could do a junior zookeeper camp, which is a teen camp in the summer that really gives you a good idea of what Keeping World is all about. You do cleaning, you do feeding.
Right.
We create exhibits, you get
Right.
you thinking like an animal kind of thing and able to address their needs, that kind of thing. Adults, you would start at something like diets. And I would recommend starting with diets and maybe a little bit of the education side of it too, because even the keepers educate the public.
Right.
It's not like they're just behind the scenes all the time.
Right.
They come out, they do keeper talks, no matter if you're a reptile keeper or a camel keeper, you're still going to have times where you have to talk in front of the public and you have to talk about your animal and know your
Right.
animal well and that kind of thing. So I would start with the education and the diet side of it, and if you like those two things really well, then chances are, if you love animals, then keeping would be something that you
It
would
might
enjoy.
be something you would want to pursue.
Sure.
If I said to you, Paul, what's the main purpose of your job? What's the answer to that question?
The purpose would be to educate the public, or I guess the public at large, about conservation-related issues.
Okay.
So that's what we focus on. That's what the zoo's mission is all about.
Give me an example of a conservation issue that would be put into some sort of curriculum.
Well, palm oil comes to mind because we just did something with palm oil for the culture crawl, the seventh grade.
Wow, how
culture
interesting.
crawl.
How
Yeah.
interesting.
So palm oil is one of those things that not very many people know about, and
Right.
if we can have an effect on what happens across the world just by being knowledgeable in the palm oil world, because about 50% of everything that you purchase has palm oil in it. So what we might do is come up with a program that maybe shocks or really kind of touches maybe the heartstrings of somebody that really loves animals. Let's say you love tigers. Well, tigers across the world in India or Sumatra are really affected by this palm oil crisis because of the fact that when a company wants to use palm oil in their products, they're going to take a plot of land and clear it out and plant palm oil plantations in that land. And some of them have regard for the animals and the insects and the plant flora that live there, but some don't. And what there is this RSPO, the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil, and they are one of the regulatory agencies that have oversight over that kind of thing.
I think it's wonderful that you've just done a program in that area. I mean, that kind of demonstration. The zoo, it seems to me, is a resource in our community that makes us aware of the need to preserve, to propagate, to be resilient, and to not do away with natural resources, particularly in the animal world. And so the educational component of the zoo is as important as the number of animals that you have out there and we love to watch all of them. But having the animal, understanding the animal part of that and the education that needs to go with that to help us understand life in general and to keep species, not lose them.
Right.
And so what's the most fun you've had coming back to Salina and working at the zoo in the job that you have?
Oh, okay. Well, I think what you just said is what I enjoy most about it, is the connecting of topics, or just drawing the connections between things that people don't think about when they go to the zoo. I hear a lot of people, sometimes I ask people, I say, what do you think we do at the zoo? Or what do you do when you go to the zoo? It's just look at animals, you know?
I know.
And you know, we want to make them understand, or to help them understand, that the animals are there for a reason.
Absolutely.
And you know, if they're just there in their habitat enclosure, that's great, and you get to see something you maybe haven't seen before, but there's a whole other world going on with that animal somewhere that you've probably never been.
That's
and
right.
So if we can draw that connection,
that's right,
then that it makes a difference.
Well, Paul, I did not know that we had a curator at the zoo, so you've educated me today, and I know that you've educated the Salina community. I don't know that I can adequately articulate how important the role of the Rolling Hills Zoo is to this community, but it is a foundational piece for community education, which helps us understand the planet on which we live and preserving the good things about the planet in which we live. And I thank you so much for being part of that conversation with us. And I hope that you will come back, particularly when you've developed a new curriculum. Will you do that and talk to us some more?
Sure.
Thank you. Paul Fouts, Education Curator. It's a hard word for me. I'm learning it. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.